You're going to learn the 5 ways that you can present like a billion-dollar CEO. When you're on stage and you have to deliver a presentation that actually counts, what are some of the things these people do? What are some of the things that you can do in your next presentation to present like a billion-dollar CEO? The first one I'll tell you is something called control. What is control? Control is before I get on stage, how can I control as many elements as possible? Now, this is what that would be. When you go to the venue, do you know where the stage is? Do you know where you can walk? Do you know where the teleprompter is going to be? Do you know when you get the clicker? Do you know where you have to look, where the cameras are? All of these things have to be under your control. Why is this important? Because if you've done enough speaking engagements, you know there are many things that don't go as planned. There are many things that you normally are not able to control. So I've noticed this pattern where these CEOs will be extremely deliberate about, hey, what's the update on this thing? Do I have my clicker here? I want the monitor placed over here. And by the way, the microphone that is strapped to my face, I want to make all of these things, they want it under their control. Why is this important? It's important because when you are delivering a presentation that's going to go to investors and customers and it's going to be on the internet forever, everything has to go right. Obviously, not everything will go right, but as much as you possibly can get it to go right, has to go right, and that involves control. So this also shows the amount of thought that goes into a presentation. Now it's not just, hey, these are my slides, I'm just going to show up. Can you imagine if there was a billion-dollar CEO who just showed up on stage and said, yeah, I had someone put these slides together last night, here we are. Obviously not. That would be a terrible, terrible strategy. So number one is control. Number two is imposter syndrome. Now, you might have heard of this phrase before. If you're not familiar with what imposter syndrome is I feel like I don't deserve this. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like the level of success I have, I don't deserve to be in this room. I hear from many people who are not CEOs, and I used to feel this way myself, that, hey, I'm a junior employee right now. I'm a mid-level manager. I'm reporting to the VP, the director. That's why I have all this imposter syndrome, because I don't know how things work yet. But I've realized that the people at the very top, they're the ones who have the most imposter syndrome. Now you might be thinking, wait, these people have it figured out. Why would they have the most imposter syndrome? Well, guess what? They don't have it all figured out. They're trying to figure it out just as much as you are, except for them, they're in a leadership role. They're already framed to be someone who's supposed to know everything. So now there's more pressure. And if they're in charge of a very big company, they're competing with other companies, they're competing to get attention, get market share. All of that comes from pressure. And I can tell you, some of the most insecure people I have met are also the CEOs of these gigantic companies. Why? Because they have all this responsibility. People look up to them. They're supposed to have all the answers, and sometimes they don't have all the answers. And that's why they feel all this imposter syndrome. But here's what I've come to learn. Every single one of them knows that they're feeling imposter syndrome because they're doing something important. Because they're going from level 10 to level 12 or level 12 to level 15. Every time you make a shift in your life, in your career, you make a big jump or you learn a new skill, you're going to be uncomfortable and you will feel out of place. And if you feel out of place, most people think, oh my God, I don't deserve to be here. I want to go back into my comfort zone. But a good CEO will recognize I'm feeling imposter syndrome because I am now growing. I am leveling up. And I'm going to say this with the best of intentions. Even the people who know that imposter syndrome is purposeful, it's supposed to happen, many of them still fall victim to the thoughts in their head, where they'll believe the thought that, hey, I don't think you deserve to be here. You don't have enough experience. You can't do X, Y, Z. When I started working with CEOs, in fact, when I started working with directors, I used to think, I've never been a director. I'm not a VP. What the heck do I know about this? What can I help them with when it comes to public speaking? I have no idea what they do. And the more I started working with people, my clients would come and tell me, Yasser, you're very good. You made a huge impression on my life. You can help my colleague over here. You can help my VP over here. That's when I started to believe, okay, if so many people have told me this and I'm experiencing imposter syndrome, maybe that just means I'm leveling up in my life. And it takes a long time, but I've realized many of these CEOs, they become aware of it, they allow it, they don't have a negative relationship with imposter syndrome. In fact, they're chasing opportunities to get more and more imposter syndrome. So the next one over we have is switch. Now, a lot of the folks that I work with, they are in the technology space, your Web3 space, crypto, AI, all of these spaces. And many of these people have gotten a lot of success very, very quickly. Many of the folks that I work with are quite young too. And because they're so focused on the technical aspects of it, they never learn the social side where how do I go and talk to people? Usually they'll have some salesperson on the team or a business development person on the team. They themselves don't have that experience. So they've gotten a tremendous amount of success in their business, but they don't know how to represent the company on stage when they're delivering a presentation. So what they know they have to do is they have to turn on a switch where I'm so shelled up and I'm so introverted. I know when I go on stage, I have to turn on this switch where I go from super introverted person to, okay, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be a little bit more energetic. I'm going to add some stories. I'm going to make eye contact. I'm going to experience that nervousness in my body. I'm just going to switch into it for a bit. And after that, when I step off stage, I'm good. I'm okay. I can be myself again. And I didn't realize this until I read a book called Alter Egos. I forgot the author of the book, but the author talks about how many celebrities have an alter ego, meaning they just tell themselves they're someone else for a moment. So Beyonce had one called Sasha Fierce, where before she would step on stage, she would tell herself, hey, I'm Sasha Fierce. And Sasha Fierce is this character who can be on stage and be extroverted and do the performance. And backstage, she would turn back into herself. And similarly, I think Kobe Bryant, he also had one. So many celebrities have this alter ego. Now, you might not have an alter ego, but what you might have is a switch. And you know how to turn that switch on. So if you've been in a relationship, maybe you're married, you have kids, you have your parent switch where, okay, came back from work, now I'm not a manager, I'm going to switch from a manager to a parent. Or I'm going to go from work mode to husband mode. Or I'm going to go from CEO building a startup to wife mode, to whatever mode. You know you can switch it. So the same way where you can talk to your child, your friend, and on stage differently, you're able to switch. The same way, a lot of these big CEOs, they know, hey, I'm a more quiet person, but I know I have to turn on that switch. I know I have to just change it when it's required. And they don't say, hey, this is not me, I'm not extroverted. They just know they have to do it for a little bit to get by. The fourth one is responsibility. Responsibility is a broader topic, but some of the CEOs that I work with who are genuinely passionate about the work they do. So Shannon Klingman is an example I give you a lot of. She is the founder of a company called Lumi Deodorant. It's a multi-nine-figure brand. And when I was working with her, I could not shake the feeling whenever she opened her mouth, there was so much passion that would come out of her mouth, and I could feel how much she wanted to do this, how important it was for when she steps on stage, she wants to make an impact. She was delivering a presentation in front of her team, and the only thing she told me is, Yasser, this is my responsibility. I want to make sure I'm ready, I am prepared, and I do a good job of motivating them. I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel the gratitude I have to have them on my team. She felt responsible for what she was going to say. She felt responsible to practice. Now, I can tell you, in corporate, there's almost zero responsibility because oftentimes there's not a lot riding on the presentation, right? You can just do it the night before, not even the night before. You can put the slides together an hour before, show up, run the client by it, do the bare minimum, and get by because you have no investment in it. But if you are the founder, you created the product, you're extremely passionate about getting it in the world, you will feel this personal responsibility to do a good job of communicating it, to do a good job of making sure the audience resonates with it. And when you feel that way, you will rehearse, you will check out the venue, you get the slide deck done a million days in advance, all of those things because you feel that certain responsibility to do well. Now, the last point I have is perspective. Imagine you are a world-class athlete. Do you think you would ever step on the field, on the court, to play the game without getting some sort of expert coaching? You can be the best in the world. You can be Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, you can be Novak Djokovic, whoever. You don't go and present without perspective. And this is so common in corporate where people will just say, yeah, I just put the slides together myself, didn't show it to anyone, and I presented it to the client. And client after client after client is being bored by the presentation, and no one is checking to see if the presentation is even good because people don't get external perspective. You might think it's really good. You might love all the technicalities, and this is half of my work is just telling my clients to remove 90% of the material and simplifying it. You might think it's really good, but unless you get someone's perspective to tell you, hey, none of that really made sense. I have no idea what you just said. It's going to be very hard for you to deliver a world-class presentation. So if I see billion-dollar CEOs, they don't step on stage, not just after getting one perspective, multiple perspectives. They will go and present in front of me, the coach. They will go in front of their team. They'll present to them. They'll go in front of the other team that has nothing to do with the project. They'll get all of this perspective and then shape the presentation. So don't have the idea that you know what's best in terms of a presentation. You know what's amazing. Run it by other people. Get external perspective from people who count and then step on stage. So these are the 5 ways that you can present like a billion-dollar CEO. The first thing, you have to control as much as you can control around the presentation, around the venue itself. Imposter syndrome is normal. Greet it. If you are doing something important, you will feel the imposter syndrome. Number 3, you have your switch. Are you able to switch on and off? You know you have to turn on that personality for a little bit, go present, get off stage, and then you can be more like yourself again. Responsibility. Is this important enough for you to practice? If it's not important, why are you even presenting it? Why are you even doing it? It should be a responsibility to your clients, to your employees, to whoever's watching, that you're going to do a good job with your presentation. And lastly, do you get perspective from other people? Do you want to make sure it's as good as it possibly can be and you're not leaving anything on the table? And if you want to do that, you have to get external perspective. I hope this was helpful. If you want more resources, go check out speaklikeaceo.com, and I'll see you next time.